Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and master certified life coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today's episode is all about how to get the sleep you need for your best life in midlife and beyond. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle with over 1 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your master certified coach and midlife clarity expert, and I am so glad to be here with you again. This week, we're getting a handle on how to get great sleep, not just so you're dreaming and all comfy cozy, but also that you're healthier. It is a super interesting topic and more important than you may imagine. So you are going to love my guest today, Terry Cralle. But just quick, before we dive into that good stuff, I want to share something exciting with you. I know that in midlife, it's easy to get stuck and confused about your priorities and what the heck you really want to do with your valuable time on this planet. No small thing. You are really not alone when it comes to getting clear about what you want, what your passion is, and what you want to make sure you don't have regrets about. So I came up with something to help you. It's called the Get Unstuck Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy Masterclass. As you know, life is too short to waste time feeling stuck in midlife. If you don't do something about your stuck state of affairs, nobody will. Take this fun online midlife masterclass and get clear about your next chapter priorities without spin, confusion, and overwhelm. Get this, in less than an hour. So imagine this. You're crystal clear about what your priorities are in life so that you can take the next best steps forward. You finally feel peaceful and confident because you know how to move forward and you see that you have plenty of time to have more fun and meaning in your life. You can grab this masterclass and get unstuck about your priorities fast and easy on your own time in the comfort of your own home and without being live on screen. So if you're tired of feeling stuck and bored with craving more happiness and excitement in your life because you don't know what you want, run, don't walk. Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com and download Get Unstuck Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy and get started. Okay, here we go with today's episode, how to get the sleep you need for your best life in midlife and beyond with Terry Cralle. Sleep has been a big deal for me over the last few years. I've talked about it a few times on the podcast. And I am learning so much. And that's why I'm making a concerted effort to bring you more interviews about this whole thing with experts because you could probably learn more about it too. Just a hunch. It is just so important for women our age especially. So Terry is a spokesperson and representative of the Better Sleep Council. She's also a registered nurse and a certified clinical sleep educator who specializes in sleep health and wellness. A national speaker, educator, and author on sleep, Terry Cralle is also the co-founder of a 4-bed sleep disorders clinic and has served as a consultant to a variety of industries and organizations on the topic of sleep health. Terry's highly qualified to help us in this area too. Her work in the field of sleep medicine has included clinical research in insomnia, as well as advocating for educational initiatives such as drowsy driving prevention, so important. As a frequent speaker and guest lecturer on the topic of sleep for schools, universities, sleep clinics, U.S. corporations, and employee wellness companies, Terry educates a wide variety of audiences on the critical importance of sleep to physical and psychological health, growth, development, safety, optimum functioning, productivity, peak performance, and quality of life. Really no surprise. It's just so important. When you hear all this stuff listed out, you can kind of see it. But as we just go about our day, we don't see it and we get in our own way. So I can't wait for you to hear what Terry has to share. So much goodness. Now, one more special note about today's episode. This information shared today in this podcast is intended for your convenience, entertainment, and education, and isn't geared to your personal situation. It's not a replacement for care or advice from your own medical professional. So as always, you may have some things you want to follow up on, so please seek a suitable professional to advise you on your personal situation. Now, I have a strong feeling that you're going to love this episode, so please enjoy. Hi, Terry. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Thanks for having me, Susie. It's a pleasure to be here.
I just was so excited to have you here. So when we start our interviews, we always do a little pre-interview just so we can get comfortable. And Nico the Noof comes walking in and Terry lost her mind.
I totally lost my mind. Absolutely.
It was so funny because Terry has two Leon burgers. And if you don't know, they're actually taller, bigger than Nico the Noof. And Nico the Noof is a big boy. And she's got two of them. So right away, I'm like, okay, now I know. Now I know who I'm talking to.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay. So I was really excited to have you on because as a midlife woman, I turned 60 recently last year, and I knew in my heart of hearts that it was time for me to take sleep seriously. Certainly working in this space, there's a lot of midlife women complaining about sleep for a variety of reasons, but I was resistant to hearing this message. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about. If you could start by just telling us a little bit about who you are and how you became the spokesperson for Better Sleep Council. So take it away. Who are you? Why are you doing this work?
Okay, I'll make it brief as possible, but I'm a registered nurse and I graduated a very long time ago from nursing school back in the early 80s. And we didn't talk about sleep very much, unfortunately, back then. But I got into clinical research through a friend where we were recruiting sleep doctors for a clinical trial involving insomnia drugs. And I was on the phone with a sleep doctor trying to get him to come on board with a company. And he said, Terry, why don't you come to my sleep clinic for a week and learn about sleep? Because I was confessing to him. I said, I don't know much about sleep, and I'm just trying to get these doctors. And he was so wonderful and said, come on down. And it was life-changing, Susie. It was career-changing, too, because from that week on, and by the way, I stayed up all night and watched people sleep or try to sleep and then slept all day. I learned so much about sleep. I learned how important it was and how serious the consequences are if you don't get enough sleep. So that was the beginning. And I've done a whole lot of work with sleep education. I wrote, my first book was published in 2016 called Sleeping Your Way to the Top. And it's how to get the success, how sleep is a means to success, where I think for many years people thought it was sort of the opposite. A couple years later, I wrote a book for kids about sleep. And now I am honored to work with the Better Sleep Council. And they just let me run my mouth far and wide about the importance of sleep. So I'm very happy to do that.
Wow, that's awesome. But why don't we know enough about sleep? What's happening? It's like there are some things that we seem to know a lot about. Nutrition, we're knowing more about nutrition now. Menopause is something we don't tend to know a lot about.
Right. Right.
What's going on with sleep? Why is it so secret? Such a big secret.
So it's actually, it's a relatively new specialty in the field of medicine. Very little ever was known about it. In fact, the man that we have in the sleep world have designated as the father of sleep medicine, his name is William Dement. He was from Stanford. And just to show you how recent this all is, I met him in a restaurant in Baltimore, Maryland, maybe 10 years ago. That's how new the specialty is. And of course, I was ready to faint dead away in the restaurant. I was so thrilled to meet him. Once I learned about sleep, he was one of my sleep heroes and just someone who's worshiped in the field. But he has recently passed away, but he worked in sleep for many years, discovered, the different stages of sleep. He was a well-known professor at Stanford. So, and his book, The Promise of Sleep, was the first book I read about sleep that was phenomenal. Oh, just a great book. But so to answer your question, it's relatively new. And think about, doctors, nurses, my colleagues in healthcare, very few, if any of us, learned about sleep in our curriculum. It wasn't mentioned. As soon as we were out of nursing school, it was here, work this shift, here, work that shift. No one addressed sleep deprivation. No one addressed how much sleep you're getting while you're not at work. I mean, sleep disorders never talked about. So and I'll tell you another problem that I should point out is I think we are all guilty of having a little bit of a contempt for sleep. I think people look at it as sort of this, oh, I have to, if I'm ambitious, if I'm a good person and character wise, I'm motivated, I want to be successful, then I'm not going to get sleep. And I'll show my strength of character by saying, I don't need sleep. I don't need that much sleep. That's for the weak. So we've glamorized and we've idealized a lack of sleep. And it's so hard to tell people, literally, statistically, less than 1% of the population are short sleepers. Do they shake out at the top? Absolutely, they do. There are people that don't need much sleep, but less than 1% of our entire population. So the rest of the adults in this country and in every country really require 7 to 9 hours a night to be their best and in terms of health and well-being. And very few are getting that. And I think I still have people in my workshops and seminars who say, I've learned how to get by on less and I want to achieve more and do more. So I'm going to try to fight this every step of the way. And it's just the wrong formula. It's the wrong approach and the wrong strategy. So my job is tough. I've got tough audiences who say, I don't have time for it. It's not realistic. And I have to convince them that they do have the time and they better make the time. And they're going to live a better life if they get that sleep every night.
You're right. The midlife gals, I think they're a huge part of your tough audience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I get pushback all the time saying it's not realistic. And, who needs that? And besides, now I'm dealing with weight issues I haven't had before. So I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. And I'm saying it's very counterintuitive at first glance. I'm saying, don't do that. I don't get up at 5 a.m. if you haven't had a good night's sleep, if you haven't had 7 to 9 hours. No, start with sleep. And then everything else falls into place. But I don't know why that's so hard to get across. Is it too simplistic? Is it, well, that can't be that easy?
Well, I can tell you what I see because it's not, and I'm using air quotes, productive. Yeah. It's the way that so many women, especially midlife women, I can't even tell you how many times this came up in coaching this week. The pressure to be classically productive.
Right.
To do things that are not sedentary and horizontal with your eyes closed.
Right.
I think that's part of it. And I'll tell you my own resistance. I had it until my physical, just after I turned 60. It kind of went back to when I had babies. My babies are all in their mid to late 20s now. But I remember craving alone time, which was at night when they were in bed. I was never a night owl. I never pulled an all-nighter, not once in university. Good. I was always prepared. And something happened when I became an entrepreneur 10 years ago. And I just, that hustle culture isn't challenged the way productivity is challenged. And there's so much self-worth tied up with what is classic productivity. And so what I've been teaching as a coach is that what if self-care is a priority? Would you say that working towards your goal is a productive way to spend your time? Right. But people struggle with that. So those are the kinds of things I see that come up. Plus, sleep is interrupted anyway in midlife. There's a lot of interruptions going on. If you happen to be married, and your partner might be waking up because of prostate issues. That happens. And you're waking up because of menopause issues and then getting back to sleep or not being able to get to sleep. There's a lot going on. And even my dog is waking up at night needing to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, dude. And then I'm thinking, wait, it's us. We got to get him on a better schedule. He needs to drink water, not late at night. But anyway, I think that's some of the stuff going on because we want to get so many things done and we just give it away so quickly rather than having the proper value and appreciation of sleep.
But, and so let me jump in and say, but I love that you brought up the term productivity, because we're not looking at this as true productivity, because we actually do more and we do it better when we've had enough hours of sleep, when we've met our sleep requirement. We are so much more productive. We're in a better mood. We're more creative. We make fewer errors. I mean, so we got to flip that on its head, because it's completely wrong to look at productivity in terms of waking hours. We have to look at it. We have to flip the script and look at productivity in terms of quality of those hours. Okay, so there's the Better Sleep Council. They sent me on one talk. I'm trying to think. Okay, the woman was in the front row, and she wasn't talking about her. She did say it was unrealistic to get 7 to 9 hours a night, which it isn't. And we'll go into that. But she said she wants her son to go to an Ivy League school, and he's a teenager in high school. And she said, so he's doing homework almost every night from, say, 6:30 until midnight, long hours. And she said it's just awful. And it takes, he stays up, but he's willing to sacrifice sleep so he can go to a good school. And I said, but don't you see? If teenagers need 9.25 hours of sleep every single night. And if your teen isn't getting that, something needs to change. So I said to her, let's just flip it around. Let's just work on his sleep for a few weeks and then see how much more efficient. I said, I will guarantee you, I will bet you money tonight. I will bet you money that he gets more done and does it better when he's getting the sleep. So see, we have to rework that formula. And then when you bring up self-care and having that alone time, I get it. I'm a mom. My child's older now, and of course, and I have plenty of me time. But the self-care thing, we have to look at sleep through a different lens. To me, we're counting our calories, we're counting our steps. I think we have a healthier respect for diet and exercise than we do for sleep. And again, it's back, but see, it's going to be futile. I cannot tell you how many emails I've had where it's, Terry, I'm doing all my workouts. I joined such and such a gym, which they do every January after the New Year's resolutions. And, on and on, and I can't lose the weight. They just chalk it up to middle age. It's inevitable. They give up on everything else. And there's this hands thrown up in the air, which shows me a lot going on, because there's some physical things, there's some psychological things that are going on. But then I write back and I say, how, are you getting enough sleep every night? LOL. And it's always LOL. Who has time? LOL. I don't have time for that. And so it's often this category of who needs it. I don't know why it's funny, but it always seems to be, which is an interesting phenomenon.
It's very interesting. And when I mentioned that alone time, it makes no sense. Nobody's bugging me at night.
Right.
I have the time, but I'm still thinking in that autopilot way that I need to find time, and the only time is to give up something else. And I don't think people think about sleep as self-care. I was just going to say, can you talk a little bit about the physical problems with not getting enough sleep? Because that was something on my 60th birthday. I had my physical, and I was very receptive to it then, because 60 as a milestone, I was kind of like, I think I'm running out of time to believe my excuses. I need to really listen to what's going on here. So what happens as a result of not getting enough sleep? Okay,
so I will say this, every single day that you are underslept, cellular damage is occurring in your body. And there have been some interesting studies about make-up sleep on the weekend. I see a lot of women in this age group, they're undersleeping during the week and saying, well, I'll get it on the weekends, and I'm just going to consume caffeine all day to get through the day. And much, much, much damage is being done. And to so many systems. So literally on a cellular level, we've got lack of sleep tied in. Obviously, the obesity epidemic is a parallel epidemic with a lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation wreaks havoc on our hormones, ghrelin and leptin, which we will want more sugary foods, fatty foods to help us get through the day, to give us our energy that we're not getting because we're not getting sleep. So we've got obesity, we've got diabetes, we've got osteoporosis, we've got certain cancers are related to lack of sleep. Guess what else they're finding? Lack of sleep. It's related to dementia and Alzheimer's. These are huge. I mean, huge. Kidney disease. I mean, tons. I mean, almost every chronic disease that affects us, hypertension, heart disease, the list is endless. And then here's where I take a little bit of a turn in my lecture, because some people get, oh, it's the physical thing, and it's tough. I mean, we used to spend early days in nursing talking to people about stop smoking. And, you try to get them to get sort of the short-term issues and the long-term. And some people are like, who cares? It hasn't happened yet type of thing. But sleep really physically will wreak havoc on us, but it also wreaks havoc mentally. I mean, we're in a terrible mood when we're sleep deprived. We are more irritable, more prone to anxiety, depression. And here's a huge one. So one of my favorite quotes is, sufficient sleep is Kevlar for your mind. It makes us bulletproof. We can handle and withstand stress when we have plenty of sleep. So when I see someone in our age group struggling with, weight issues, depression issues, I mean, all of these things, in my brain, I'm like, check, 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 start with sleep. And they're not doing it. And I beg people, every healthcare provider encounter, bring up sleep, whether it's good, bad, or you don't know. I mean, sometimes we don't know. Is your partner snoring during the night? Is that waking you up? Oh, hilarious. Elbow them. I have women tell me he won't stop snoring. And then I fix it because I elbow him. I literally had a woman tell me that the other day. And I said, has he been tested for sleep apnea? No, I just elbow him. No. That's not going to, we have to take it seriously, because sleep apnea will completely compromise your sleep quality and your sleep time, which will lead to a lot of problems if it's not taken care of. So we have to always look at sleep. In fact, I say look at it as a vital sign. It is so vital to our lives and our well-being. So again, physical issues, psychological issues. And what happens, Susie, is people lose their point of reference on how it feels to be well rested. And this is a good time to jump in and say, if for 2 weeks, and I always see all these New Year's resolutions about diet and exercise, nothing about sleep. I say, just stop everything 2 weeks, ideally 4. But if you can just schedule completely re-engineer your day and night. So you have marked off 7 to 9 hours every night, delegate everything else, redo whatever, make alternate plans, figure it out. But if you can do that, tell me how much better you feel after consistently getting, it might take a while because so many people have chronic sleep debt accrued. That again, they've lost their point of reference, or they say, I feel like crap in the morning when I wake up because I'm such and such an age. I have had 30-some-year-old patients tell me that in a sleep clinic setting. I said, You should feel great when you wake up. So let's look at sleep disorders. Let's get screened. Are you falling asleep at inopportune times? If you fall asleep during one of my lectures, you're sleep deprived. I could be boring as hell. But if you're just bored, you're going to doodle, you're going to text your friends and say, oh my God, Terry put me to sleep. Terry's boring. But if you fall asleep, that's not normal. If you fall asleep the second your head hits the pillow at night, not normal. And then we need to jump in and always talk about drowsy driving. It's as dangerous as drunk driving, but no one gets that.
No.
I mean,
Terry, what you just said about falling asleep as soon as your head hits the pedal, as soon as your head hits the pillow,
Right.
that's what was happening to me. So I was interpreting it as, oh, I don't have any trouble with sleep. I fall asleep immediately, because so many of my clients talk about spinning with anxiety and not being able to sleep, or having insomnia and not being able to sleep. And so I am a recent CPAP wearer. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it, because what happened in our family was my husband's been wearing CPAP for a long time, probably 20 years. So I know what it looks like. I know what it's like to schlep it around and take it on vacation and have to get distilled water and all the things. And he kept telling me I snore and I should probably go for a sleep study. This was a mantra. And so for years, I'm like, you know what? I put up with your snoring for years. Just suck it up. And then even I could tell that the snoring was getting worse. And I got this ring called an Aura ring. And it tracks, one of the things it tracks is sleep and sleep disturbances, breathing irregularity. So I started to see it, and coming from an app, it wasn't as emotionally loaded as it was coming from my husband or my kids or anybody else hearing me snore. So that, coupled with turning 60, I became a little bit more curious and a little bit more open-minded, so that when I went for my physical and my doctor looked at me and said, "Do you snore?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "I think you should go for a sleep study." And I said, "Okay." Like, I had no resistance at all. And I went, and I have severe sleep apnea. So I was really thinking about being more open-minded to it. And I didn't want to go to the sleep study. The sleep study scared me. It freaked me out a little bit. Like, it's disturbing your sleep. You have to go someplace you don't know. You have to have a weird night's sleep, and you have to leave at 5 a.m. and all the things. But I went because I was ready. And the other thing I started to think about was, you know, I have a sister who's dealing with cancer treatment right now. And I kept thinking, you know, for me to take care of this and get treatment, it's so easy. I have to sleep more. I have to wear a CPAP, a little weird, but it's so nothing compared to what so many people have to do to treat whatever it is that they're treating. And so my mindset shifted, and believe me, I felt very self-conscious. I was very uncomfortable. I had a retreat I was hosting. I had to travel with the thing. And it's so funny, because when you travel with CPAP, you see everybody who's traveling with CPAP. Like, it's like a little satchel thing that you have to wear and bring. And so now I'm like bonding with all the middle-aged men who are also carrying it around. But anyway, there was extreme resistance. So, and guess what? The sleep apnea got solved immediately. Like, immediately. The first night I went for the sleep study, I get in the car at 5 a.m. and I look up my app for the ring, because I would get the results more quickly from my ring than from the doctor. And it said there were zero instances of breathing irregularly. Like, what a difference. So tell me a little bit about what you're noticing with CPAP in the world. I think everybody probably needs to be wearing them at this age.
You know, and back to my maiden voyage to Houston at sleep clinic that really changed. I think the first night I stayed, I watched a patient with severe apnea, you know, trying to sleep. I tell you, I mean, as a nurse, it takes a lot to freak me out, a whole lot. I was freaked out about the struggle and then, you know, I thought, God, of course this has got to be bad on your heart and everything in your, I mean, it was, oh my gosh. And so just to see the difference in the health and quality of life. I mean, interestingly, one patient in my clinic came to us, and she was probably in her 40s, and her husband had said, "Please, you know, she's snoring. It's keeping me up all night." And she was having a lot of issues with falling asleep at inopportune times. But as you described, it took her a while. And I wish women would pay closer attention and realize how important it is. Anyway, she came in, severe sleep apnea, was diagnosed, treated. She comes in for her follow-up visit 30 days later with her husband. He sat down in the chair and he said, "Thank you for giving me my wife back."
Wow.
Her personality, he said, before the diagnosis and treatment, it was irritability, yelling at the kids. We're not our best selves when we're dealing with this. And if you could see someone dealing with that all night, I'll say here before I forget, as far as studies go, again, as a nurse, I would classify this as one of the easiest studies. No one is typically, we're not in there staring at you while you're in rooms. We have cameras just in case you fall out of bed or something. Getting up to use the restroom's easy. You don't have to undo 800 wires. I just want to say, of all the tests, it's one of the easiest tests.
Agreed.
There's nothing invasive. There's nothing stuck into you. Nothing. No pain, right? Will you agree?
Correct.
You gotta back me up here. But is it a hassle? Of course. Is it the best hassle you'll ever undertake? It absolutely is, because that's how important, and I can't overstate that's how important it is. Another thing with CPAP that was real interesting, we had a geriatric patient struggling with severe diabetes. It was very hard to control. And his primary physician called me one day and said, and he had been diagnosed with apnea. So we're trying to work with him on compliance with CPAP. Doctor's on the phone, and she said, "Look, we're having a hard time getting his blood sugar stabilized. I'll just deal with that. And when that's taken care of, then we'll get the CPAP taken care of." And I said, "Oh no, oh no, that's not how we do it. We get the CPAP taken care of." I said, "And you will see magical results with his blood sugar," which we did. Wow. So we have to start turning this around and looking at this again. Vital sign. This is, we used to have this. In fact, it used to be on a presentation I would give, the 3 pillars of health: diet, exercise, and sleep. And then we'd have all kinds of different slides that show these pillars. It's inaccurate. We don't do that slide anymore. That slide's been trashed. It's actually a triangle. And the base, the foundation, is sleep. Because diet and exercise are 100% contingent and are based on the sleep you're getting, the quantity and the quality. So it's super important to make sure that's going, that's ideal. We've optimized that, ruled out sleep disorders, treated sleep disorders, and then we go from there. And another sleep disorder that I'm sure is commonplace with your listeners at certain times or on a chronic basis is insomnia. And there are a lot of ways to help people with insomnia. One major way that do not involve medications, and that's cognitive behavioral therapy -I, and that I stands for insomnia. And CBTI is offered by many healthcare providers, and people should really look into that have been struggling with insomnia. Again, I think there are some sleep hygiene rules are kind of everywhere. Every blog, every website has sleep hygiene rules. And I think, I get frustrated. I think people are well aware of them, but then if they can't do one or two, then they kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, I need to check my phone at night, or I need to do this or that. And so that's why, they're still try to do them, because you will sleep better. And when you sleep better, you think better. And when you think better, you can problem solve. You might prioritize sleep a little bit better. You'll have clarity of thought. You're more motivated. You have a better outlook, and you have a more can-do approach to everything. But I think there are things to do even during the day that kind of fall a little bit out of the sleep hygiene category, which is list writing. And physically doing it with pen and paper at the end of your workday. Some people call it a brain dump, but that can help hours later when you go to lie down in bed and your head starts swimming. How many people deal with that? You're just ruminating over everything. You're thinking about things.
Yeah.
Try doing that list.
That's a great idea. There was one thing I did want to ask you. I didn't want to forget. It was about the CPAP thing that really surprised me. And it was the neck girth. I don't know how to talk about it specifically, but my doctor said something about my neck. As soon as I got to the sleep clinic, they measured my neck.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that and what we need to know.
Yes, the neck circumference.
That's it. Yeah.
If it's over certain inches, I think that's a little bit different from male to female. That can be a risk factor and a sign that you should get screened and studied. There's also a little bit of a urban myth that it only affects overweight people. That's not true. I think maybe something I read yesterday said 67% of the population that have a sleep apnea are overweight, but it can happen with people of all sizes. And then look at how are you functioning during the day? Do you need caffeine all through the day to function? That's not normal. I mean, you shouldn't have to rely on caffeine. And then you get in that vicious cycle of too much caffeine, and of course, trouble falling asleep at night. And then it just keeps going on. Do you wake up with headaches? A lot of people that are snoring and gasping, they're waking up with headaches in the morning, dry mouth. If you don't have a bed partner, that could be something to be sure to share with your healthcare provider in case you're not fully aware. But frequent awakenings during the night, frequent using the restroom during the night can be another sign that it might be sleep apnea. So there's some really good screening things. And typically, again, if you go to your primary care or healthcare provider, get screened.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's especially before surgery. Many anesthesia departments will screen you if you're going in for any surgical procedure because it's more of a risk if you're undergoing a general anesthesia.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I guess a few things about CPAP really did surprise me. And I remember when I was being fitted, I was told that it might take about a month to get used to wearing the appliance. And so I realized that I was very self-conscious about it. And at night, sometimes I would feel an extreme urge to take it off. And then I was so new to it and awkward that I didn't want to wake up my husband, but I needed a light and I couldn't figure out how to put it on and where the snaps were and was there a leak or was there not? One time there was a leak, it was making noise and I woke up and my husband's hand was on my face, readjusting it, and I was startled. So I actually did move out of the bedroom for a month to get it sorted. And I found that helped so much.
Huge.
And I just didn't worry about it. I just took my time with it. If I had to turn the light on to fix it, it was fine. And also I started to appreciate the data, looking to see how many hours I got of uninterrupted sleep. And that reminded me that having that black and white data from my Ring really did help me. And I found there are lots of apps that will record the noises at night and will track certain things. And for me, that was really useful. But I guess the one problem that's left, because I'm handling everything really well, but because I was sleep deprived for so long, I'm finding I can't just go to sleep and get 8 hours. I still wake up at maybe the 5-hour mark and I want to get more sleep, but then I have to fall asleep. So what tips do you have to train yourself incrementally on how to get the amount of sleep that you want?
First of all, it's normal to wake up during the night. Many times, if we're not struggling or challenged by a sleep disorder or an unoptimized sleep environment, we'll go right back to sleep. If the room is dark, comfortable, you're on a comfortable mattress, everything's copacetic, you'll probably fall right back to sleep. But there's been some really interesting research done that states or hypothesize that early in history, we slept in 2 segments. And that might just be part of our natural history of sleeping. And it wasn't always consolidated, this perfect little 8-hour thing. The historians call it first and second sleep. And Roger, I think Eckert, from Virginia Tech, wrote a really good book about the history of sleep. Roger Eckert. So all that being said, I know I say to people, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll fall back asleep. Don't stress. I mean, it's almost like we've got there are sleep affirmations you can recite to yourself. I mean, just that mindfulness of saying, let's have some faith in our body and brains. And, it's sort of like, I'll fall back to sleep. I'm not going to look at the clock or pick up my phone and start going through things and then start freaking out about, how many hours left do I have? I mean, that's sort of the normal reaction.
Yeah.
And I talked to someone earlier she said she got to the same point that I did over the years, you have to be very accepting and say, I'll fall back asleep. In fact, one of the things we say with people who are struggling with falling asleep at night is just relax and sleep will follow. We tell people don't try to fall asleep. So whether that's when you're going to bed at night or in the middle of the night, don't try to go back to sleep or try to sleep. Just relax and sleep will follow. And I'm glad you brought up the situation with sleeping independently. The term sleep divorce was out there for far too long. I refuse to use that term. I think it's terrible. Sharing a bed for sleep with a bed partner is a very tall order. If Brad Pitt walked in this door right now and said, I'd like to sleep with everyone, no, can't do it. Cannot do it. Sorry, Brad, I can't do it. I have to have the room, a certain temperature. My blankets have to be such, and I've got Cleo, the Leon Burger, and I don't know if Brad can handle Cleo in the bed, but it's so many, it is a tall order. And I see couples who look at sleeping independently as problematic. And I say, actually, it could be if you're not sleeping well together, or if you're trying to acclimate to your CPAP or anything, whatever's going on, sleeping independently is fine. And it's probably the best thing you can do for your health and your relationship. So it's never okay. It's to sacrifice your well-being, which is getting enough sleep, for some sort of arbitrary thing. And we have to be very unapologetic. I think women have felt guilty when they need sleep or want sleep. I worked with a doctor on an app for new mothers. It is so shocking what new mothers go through. And I think far too many mothers or new moms are dealing with terrible, of course, sleep deprivation. But this obviously can lead to depression. I think a lot of the, postpartum depression issues are tied up with sleep. Then we find teenagers who aren't getting enough sleep, and look at the rates of mental health problems in that demographic. These are all related to sleep. But I was working thinking about these new moms, and it's like, I just want to say, stop, be unapologetic. I need my sleep. I need someone else to clean the house for 2 months. I need someone else to do the errands for a month. I don't care, but ask for help. Be unapologetic. You're not less of a mom. In fact, you're a better mother. You're a more responsible mother. You're a better spouse, partner, whatever, when you're well rested. So that, again, going back to flip the script a little bit, look at sleep as a biological need. I'm not apologetic for needing water throughout the day. I know it's a healthy thing to do. I know my body needs it. Why am I going to feel guilty or like I'm slacking if I'm not getting the sleep I need? Grab a nap. There's nothing wrong with getting a nap.
Oh my God, Terry, I'm so glad you put a spotlight on it. When I said it, it was just by the by. But now that we're talking about it, I did feel like it was a weird request.
Yeah.
That it felt like, women in midlife are very uncomfortable putting themselves first. It comes up in so many ways. And it was so clear to me that once I said yes to treatment, I was convinced that it was a real problem and it was worthy of treatment. I believe that I am worthy to improve my health.
Right.
And why wouldn't I want to set myself up for success?
Exactly. In every sense of the term success. I mean, every sense of it. I mean, so that's what we as women, I think we're particularly vulnerable to sacrificing our sleep to get things done at many different age groups along the continuum. And we need to stop that and
Yeah,
say, no.
I agree. I love the analogy of thinking about it like water, a
Mhm,
biological need.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that one, I don't think anybody would hesitate. Well, maybe there's somebody out there, but I don't think anybody would squirm and feel
No,
guilty because they want
no,
more water.
no. We're everywhere with our water jugs now. We
Right.
get it. We're looking at the water quality, which is awesome, but we can't. And again, and I'm going to say it right now, since the Better Sleep Council tells me to. But I mean, one of the tips for better sleep is to stay hydrated. I mean, hydration helps with sleep quality. And then I can get women back to a healthy lifestyle if they've fallen out of it. You know how I do that? I say, put sleep first, 2 weeks. And then I say, take a 10-minute walk. Just take a 10-minute walk today, because if you do that today, you're going to sleep better tonight. And guess what happens when you sleep better tonight? You'll feel better tomorrow. You'll be more motivated. You'll have more energy. You'll have a better outlook. You'll be happier. And you're more likely to take another 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk. But before you know it, this healthy lifestyle has literally just occurred. So I don't want to minimize it and say it's so easy, but it is easy if
But
you
what you're
look at it in
saying,
these baby
yeah.
steps.
If you said to yourself, no, to get that exercise goal, you're going to have to do 10 minutes 5 times a day, or maybe you're going to have to do a half hour 3 times a day. Right away, so much resistance comes up, and
Oh
you're
yeah.
basically saying, lay down, relax,
Yeah.
close your eyes.
Yes. It's so amazing. And get some light early in the day. It's not just things you do at night, but during the day, get some natural light. It helps our body clocks. So when it is time to go to bed, we'll have that melatonin production and we'll be more likely to fall asleep and stay asleep. But again, if you do wake up, which is normal, but still, what are the reasons you're waking up? Too many bathroom trips, go get tested for sleep apnea, coughing, hacking. I mean, just think of all these things that could be a sleep disorder, potentially, and get that looked into. All the sleep disorders are easily managed and treated. I'm not saying it's super easy, but I'm saying the CPAP will give you the relief you need, and your sleep quality is going to be better. Your overall health will be better.
Yeah.
And it's a small price to pay. And I think, like I said, the incidence of sleep apnea does increase as we age. And then
Yeah.
we have to look at, there's a lot of good information at the Better Sleep Council website on optimizing your sleep environment. And when we talk about bed partners and things like that, if you're and apnea, look at what's new out. I mean, first of all, make sure your bedroom's conducive to sleep, and kind of address it during the day, not just at night when you think, oh my God, I haven't shopped for pillows in 10 years and my mattress is 30 some years old. I mean, really, I think we pay a lot of attention to our kitchens and having the latest, greatest in our televisions. But when you think about it, the mattress is the most important healthcare product in the home. And there's so many new materials out now. I mean, I do a lot of consulting with the industry and things, and there's something for everyone. And of
It's
course,
so true.
I'm fond of those adjustable bases that give you many more sleep positions than just lying flat in the bed.
Mm.
Or, it can help with CPAP use. There are CPAP pillows that can help. And sometimes sleeping on your side can open up your airway a little bit as well as just elevating the head a little bit.
So good. You've shared so many good tips and ideas, and really put it out there that the way we think about sleep needs an adjustment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned that
Yeah,
there's some great information on that website. Can you give us the contact information?
sure. Bettersleepcouncil.org. Great information on, I mean, all kinds of sleep hygiene, sleep strategies, and optimizing the bedroom. Those good things. That's a great website to start with. The Academy of Sleep Medicine, has an education website, which is great. You'll see a chalkboard behind me. I'm working on some kids things now. If we get little kids sleeping well early, we can absolutely change their entire trajectory in life.
Wow.
Because sleep is related to behavior, learning, and so many things that really let us reach our full potential. So I'm starting a lot of work with kids. So
I'm getting very excited.
Visit this website. Yeah.
I'm going to put those addresses and links and stuff in the show notes. Absolutely. Terry, it's been so much fun getting to know you, finding about your Leon Burgers and what's going on in your bedroom. I have a feeling one of those dogs is on your bed. Am I right?
Yes. And you are going to get pictures.
I can't wait.
Of Caesar and Cleopatra. You're going to have pictures and probably go, oh my God, stop. But I've got that big head thing going on. And I always have to, I say it takes me so many minutes in the morning to kiss every single.
Oh my gosh. These our 3 dogs combined. It's a lot of beautiful fur and dog body going on, but I don't let Nico in the bed. I grew up with St. Bernards in the bed. I drew my line, but he does, because he's so tall, when he comes over, his head is way above the bed. So he can get right in there and breathe on your face and make sure that he needs to go out.
Well, Cleo is a good sleeper. The other ones, I wouldn't even think of it, but we have 5, so you'll get pictures. We've got the 2 Leon Burgers, an Airedale Terrier, who really needs to be like a Navy SEAL. Like he's just smartest dog I've ever seen. He's always up to craziness. No, he's a lot of work, but he needs to be doing like.
Terry, who else do you have in there? What's going on?
just the 5.
But who are the other 2?
Shelties, Hanky and Panky. Mm-hmm.
It's so surprising that you're getting any sleep with that much commotion going on. So good. But Terry, really thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Great.
I was looking forward to speaking about CPAP because I did feel a little shame about it at the very beginning. I felt so uncomfortable. And now I feel like I need to blab. I think it's so important. The result was so quick. And I haven't quite worked up enough nerve to take a picture of myself and put it on social media, but at least I'm blabbing about it.
Susie, if you ever, I can do a whole show on CPAP because what you're telling me now, we'll get the guys to go in. The wives will get the guys to go in for their studies. But I think we are missing the boat. We're compromising our health and well-being and our quality of life by not getting tested and treated.
Agree.
And I feel bad. One of my patients is just, she said, I'm never going to wear that thing. And that makes me, here we put masks on our face and our hair and we don't care how we look for a little bit of time in order but with the CPAP, I would like to, whenever you have time, however you have time, addressing women really coming out of but to me, it's the sleep closet. Look at these new mothers. These new mothers are cleaning the house after they've had no sleep at night with a newborn. And I'm like, no. And then, this postpartum depression issue is huge. It's because of sleep. I saw an article the other day about teenagers. There's not enough mental health providers in high schools now. And I'm like, that's because your high school starts at 7:20. Like, what is the reason there's all this depression, anxiety, violence? It's because school start time at 7:20 is terrible for teens. So I'm thinking the women's thing is really important. So I'm at your service anytime you want to talk about it.
I think we'll do
on social media.
We'll do another one. Maybe we'll do a Facebook Live or something. I think that would be great. And I think now that I've been a couple of months with the CPAP, the only thing I'm nervous about is sharing a room on vacation with somebody I don't know. Like sometimes you go to a retreat and all of a sudden you're sharing a room. So as I was a snorer for so long, I would never share a room. I'm just like, I don't want anybody disturbed and I don't want to be woken up. Mm-hmm. So I just wouldn't. And now I'm wondering if that's something I'm going to continue to care about. I'm going to work on it and really try to unpack it because I feel so great that I'm doing something about my health. And I think it is important for me to talk about because I had resistance and now I'm getting perspective on it. And your talk today really did help.
Okay, so keep this in mind because in my clinic, we would screen and treat truckers, okay? Because what happens, Susie, if someone has untreated sleep apnea, they can kill themselves and other people. I mean, lives are lost because of untreated sleep apnea. I'm going to just throw this out there. You would be a champion. We don't have a female CPAP wearing champion in this country. We don't.
So Terry, you're saying that maybe we should be doing something together other than just talking about our big dogs and what's going on in our bedrooms at night?
You can single-handedly save lives. I mean, we have to go out and educate, but I would love to see more women get screened and treated. And this is the only thing that works, but it saves lives. It saves lives.
Yeah. Thank you so much for really putting it in the right perspective. And like I said, when you said biological need,
yeah,
I thought about it differently. I knew that sleep is a biological need, but the way you just said it and pointing out the guilt and even noticing that I felt a little bit of guilt when I said to my husband, listen, I think I need to just be by myself and work on this for a month. It was so like behavior is interesting and being a midlife woman is interesting. And this is just another thing, but it is an easy thing to fix.
Okay.
And
think about it.
Yeah, it really is it's an easy thing to fix. So Terry, thanks again for everything. You've really put a giant spotlight on what needs to be done. And if you're listening right now and you can't wait to learn more, head over to bettersleep.org and you'll get a ton of great information. And I think you'll be very inspired. And you never know where I'm going to show up on social media with my CPAP looking beautiful. I'm not there yet, but with Terry's support, we might be going there. You never know. Thanks so much and have a good sleep, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Susie.
That's it for this episode. Sleep is super important for us midlife gals to get better at. Yes, you must get better at sleep. Terry sheds so much light on this challenging part of so many of our lives. If sleep is tricky for you, I bet you're pretty motivated now. Wow, when I saw what was going on with my Oura ring, and that's spelled O-U-R-A if you want to check it out. When I saw what was going on, like the data from my Oura ring, I was floored and highly motivated because the data about my sleeping and snoring and breathing regularity was black and white. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I loved having a chance to talk about wearing a CPAP with you too, especially because of all the resistance that I had. So if you're struggling with this issue, I hope hearing another midlife gal talk about it helps. Now, as you know, this podcast is all about how to love your life again after 50. It's really all about coaching you to be more intentional and to incorporate mindfulness into your life as a regular practice. This is how you put yourself on your agenda. My focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and focused on your current values and priorities so you don't have regrets. I can help you create the confidence, courage, and meaning that you're looking for. So if you're ready to take a baby step, you're invited to book your momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com and we'll chat. It's no obligation and free. Remember, you're also invited to purchase my new masterclass, Get Unstuck, Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy, where you can get clear about your next chapter priorities without spin, confusion, and overwhelm in less than an hour. Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com. And finally, for show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 371. You'll also see links there for the new show, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.